bringing us together. Thank you very much, Tanaka. Yeah. I'm in the driver's seat. I feel like a guilty person right away. I don't know guilty of what. Yeah. And you're the jury. My name is Eric Huntley, as you very well know. I don't know who your name is. Can you introduce yourself?
Jared.
Huh?
Jared.
I wouldn't remember any of the names, so you don't have to worry. Yeah.
Jared.
Jared.
Yes.
Yeah, perhaps you can say your name and a little bit about yourself.
Sorry?
I said perhaps they can introduce their names and a little bit about themselves.
Are you in charge of this?
It's a suggestion, sir. Always teasing me.
Your turn will come. Yeah. Yeah.
Sol.
Okay.
Indigo.
Yeah.
Kush.
Okay.
And Ben.
Okay. And yours, introduce yourself.
Sukant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, my excuse for not remembering is that as you get older, how old am I? How old do you think I am?
Not a day over 25.
Cruel question.
Not a day over 25.
Oh.
I know, Sukant's already told me,
Oh, I
so
see.
it'd be unfair for me
Okay.
to guess.
Okay. I would say 94 young, not old. 94 young,
Wow.
not old. What I wanted to do is I'm going to put you on the stage after I've said a few words, yeah. And what I want to begin the storyline at is I'm from Guyana, formerly British Guyana. Does that ring a bell? Any of you at all? Former British Guyana. On the South American coast, with the Atlantic seashore. Hello, that's my daughter. That's my daughter.
We're recording. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah. Come and join us, please.
No, I can't.
No?
No, I'm going out.
Okay.
She's going to see a show. There's what's his name is at Shepherd's Bush with a show this evening. Anyway, I want to start in British Guyana. So there are three Guyanas. One was the Dutch speaking. One was French speaking, and one was English speaking. So I'm from the English speaking part. So you see what happens, imperialism. We grew up with it. That's our history. So we're next to the French part and the Dutch part. It's on the Atlantic seashore. Yeah. Coming from that kind of background, English is the main language. They wouldn't allow us. We were prevented from learning any other language other than English language. We were very lucky we managed to, as we did. English was the language. And I saw something in the newspapers today that what the writer was saying is that English has become the major, the language of the main imperialist country in the world, one of them, and their language has almost killed the native language and inserted English in its place. It's all well and good. This is a sideline, really. It's all well and good for us to be able to travel in any part of the world, and your language is spoken by the native people, but at the expense of the native people's local language. I left school. I grew up, my father was a prison warden. My mother no work, was a working housewife. My father is a prison warder. So those two kind of parallel lives of a housewife who's never worked, never been socialized in a working atmosphere, is married to a person who looks after criminals. So anybody who goes to jail, who is an inmate in a jail, as far as he's concerned, is a criminal. So those two contrasts we lived with. One of the influences of my life in those days, growing up in that atmosphere, is that the atmosphere has always been get a book and read. We weren't allowed to play if you have nothing to do. The devil makes, they would say, the devil makes work for idle hands, and they didn't want the devil to take over us. So you had to be doing something positive. But my complaint to that is that there were hardly any books around. What the hell are you going to read if you don't know books? The very few books we had were school books, textbooks. That might sound great, but I've never had a school bag. I've never had a school bag to put enough books in it. And yet my parents and the atmosphere within our circle of friends, get a book and read. So I left school at 15, and I joined the post office. Post office, you began firstly as a telegraph messenger, when telegrams were the main source of contact, really. And we had to learn the Morse code, A, B, C, in order to communicate with post offices throughout the country. Fortunately, unlike this country, you could be a postman all the days of your life. But where I come from, we were very fortunate, whoever did it. We can take exam, so from a messenger, a telegraph messenger, which is the lowest rung, you can become a senior, you could become a postman, and then you could become a clerk in the post office, where you work on the counter, and you could become the postmaster general. Very, very lucky, really. British colonialism. So, like my father, he's a prison warder, and there's 3 prisons in the country, and he's subjected to be transferred from one to the other. Similarly for myself, as when I became a telegraph messenger, I had to prepare myself to be transferred from one post office to the other. That's the rule, that's the system. So that my father worked at all 3 post office prisons, and I myself worked in New Amsterdam twice, Rosignol once, Buxton, Kitty, Soesdijk, did I say Soesdijk? Several post offices, Myconi, several post offices. I mention this because it seems as though children inherit some of their parents' traveling or experiences of working, and not only working, but living in several residences. Same thing that happened to my parents has happened to me. but I don't want to go too far ahead. In 1950, the first election by universal adult suffrage was implemented. And the anti-imperialist party at that time, the People's Progressive Party, I found myself as a founder member of that party. We wanted independence. 1950 was the first Congress of that party. Unfortunately or fortunately, this is the time of McCarthy. You know McCarthy? The American anti-communist McCarthy. So the whole of the English-speaking world is scared of communism. The party that I was part of, it was a broad church. We had lawyers, doctors, but the main thing which binded us together was that we wanted independence. But however, it was a very tenuous kind of relationship with each other. And the British recognized, and the Americans recognized that, and they did their work on the ground and overground. In 1953, troops were sent into Guyana, and they dismissed the government. One of the few things that British imperialism, whatever they do or don't do, we were one of the first colonies where troops were sent and we were dismissed from the government on the pretext that we were communists. And so that meant that as a young person, all your dreams and aspirations and so on is dashed more or less. And what made it worse too is that we were trying to build a unity of the two main ethnic groups. We didn't use that word. I'm only using it because I've been brainwashed now. There were the people from India. The first set of people were Africans who were enslaved. After abolition of slavery, the Cane lobby went to India, and they brought over indentured laborers to take the place of us who were working on the plantations. You can imagine a situation where we are now free and we are attempting to negotiate for land, attempting to negotiate for wages for the first time. And people from India, people from Portugal, China, coming in without any consensus. That word didn't even apply. So that the tension came about because here is a group who can negotiate their wages. They were indentured for about 4 or 5 years, and after that they were free. But here is the ex-slaves want to get wages. So that's partly the result of the friction which came about between ourselves and people of Asian origin. But the two main categories of people were ourselves and the people of Asian origin. So when the British government used the troops to squash the independence movement, enjoy the weekend.
I'm coming back tonight.
Huh?
I'm coming back tonight.
Sorry.
I'm coming back tonight. I'm sleeping here.
Yes, yeah. You're going to get the newspapers? I should have asked you to collect the
I might not.
newspapers. Huh?
I won't, because I have to carry it all.
No, but you're walking to Oxford Road.
I'll get
I want to
them.
walk with it to the theatre.
Oh, I
I'll
huh?
get
You
it.
get
I'll
it
get it.
tomorrow. You get it tomorrow.
All right, you're
Whenever
going
he
to
wants, I'll get
You're
it.
going to collect it tonight for me?
Whenever you want, Eric.
Okay. Okay. So when the troops came in and the British government, with a tremendous show of strength, it split the country. Indians thinking differently and Africans thinking differently. Whereas previously, the purpose of the party that we were operating, we saw it as uniting them in order to get independence. But the British government and the Americans, McCarthy particularly, split the government, and that still exists to this day. The country is ruled by the troops, when the troops were in charge.
Martial law.
Hmm?
Martial law, yeah.
Sorry?
Martial law.
Martial law. So there are rules now. The democratic, so-called democratic practices which we were used to were put in the dustbin, and martial law. I broke the martial law, and I was imprisoned by the British government in Ghana. Yes. That reason, and to get employment in that atmosphere was impossible. So the only resource that I could have found to make a living, I've got 2 children now, is to come abroad. And here you are, I find myself in England. I want to stop there a bit. To get some feedback. So I'm in England now, to get some feedback about my experiences. So that I arrived here in 1957. Yeah. Let me rest a bit, and you can come in here to ask me anything about living in Guyana and so on. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I only know one other person who's Guyanese who I met while I was doing a master's degree, and he was also African Guyanese. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
he was also African Guyanese, and I have to just find the whole concept of that country in South America with a predominantly black African population, and then second largest majority being kind of a Indian population, and it being called British Guyana, yeah, despite that, and there being this indigenous South American population who actually make now seemingly a very sort of small minority. Like, how did the demographics of the country sort of evolve in the time that you lived there? Like, did you see any change between it being like a South American indigenous country and it becoming more black African or more Indian, and how did like the politics relate to that, or was it the whole time it was just under colonial rule, so it didn't really make a difference?
One of the consequences of our being there is the fact that even though we're living on the South American coast, our cultural connections are West Indian, the islands that are in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whatever, and the people are split. There's a split between in Guyana. Should we join there was a federation which was suggested. Should we join the federation and becoming much closer to the rest of the West Indian islands, or should we become South Americans? Or I don't know what the hell we're going to become. but our heritage and our ancestors are all West Indians. So all the fissures and differences, which we were trying, if we were given some time, we would have tried to resolve it by discussions and by just personally with each other, we didn't get a chance at all. The British came in and we used a sledgehammer, and so all the differences which were there rose to the surface. And it still exists to this day. So they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were. Divide and rule has always been the role that they've played. Does that help? And another thing is that British Guyana was formerly the Dutch owned it, and the French were very strong in Trinidad. The Dutch, the French, and who else? Portugal, even Norway had a little island, a little island in the Caribbean, a little piece of Norway. I think it's Norway, yeah. So many of the European powers that be had their toe in the Caribbean. Sugar, they wanted sugar and cotton. We supplied cotton in those days. Sugar and rum. Yeah.
Did you say you founded the Party of Independence there?
Yes, I was part of the founding. Yes.
And then how did it go from you founding it with people, and then you win the election?
Sorry.
And then you went and won the election.
Yes, we won the elections.
How quickly was that time period?
Well, 50. The first Congress of the party was in 1950, and the first government where we voted universal adult suffrage was in 53.
Very quick.
So and then the British government sent troops in 133 days after the elections.
Oh.
But so that within the same year that we won the elections, we were only in office for
3 months.
3 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
4 months.
That must have been a heartbreaking time.
But that's my British Guyana story. I was married with 2 children. I left home very early because my father, as far as he was concerned, anybody who went to prison is a criminal. So I left home and lived with my aunt for a little while, cut off from the family completely.
How would you sum up Cheddi Jagan's position on Britishness?
Cheddi Jagan's
position on Britain and Britishness, was it to break the chain completely and have nothing to do with them, or was there negotiations?
At that time we never spoke about we spoke about independence.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't speak about self-government.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted independence because we were very left. We were left, but mark you, there were other elements within the party, so we had to keep the elements